A good in-house platform is able to narrow the variables based on local context. You can say, we're doing this thing. We don't need all of that other variance. Therefore, we can abstract just a little bit further, or we can create this platform to hide a little more detail because we're not trying to cope with as general a case as Google or Amazon or whoever else is building your cloud infrastructure.
Correct, and that is good. Where it gets tricky is that you generally have many cooks in the kitchen. So when this platform thing starts, the security people are promised that you have more compliance and more constraints. The developers are being promised that they're more productive. The architects are being promised that everything will follow common architecture standards. And I don't think it's impossible to do that, but you need to be really careful whether one thing can really achieve all these different aspects that you're after. So give you a classical example where people sort of jump on this bandwagon without really getting the nuances. So like you said, right, we can make additional assumptions. We don't need to build for the whole world. So we can probably simplify the usage of the base platform, right? However, this often starts with people setting default values. So let's say you want the DynamoDB database, right? And you say, our developers don't really need, we always have replication on, and we always have this provisioning model, and we have this, right? So we make some default settings. And isn't this really useful for the developers? Less cognitive load, yada, yada. Sounds good, but doesn't always end good. And the example I tend to give there is, if somebody has a 1,000-piece puzzle, and you say, hey, let's make this easier, it doesn't help if you take 100 pieces away. You actually made the puzzle piece harder, right? Because now you have like missing pieces. So setting default values can have good intentions, but it's usually not an abstraction, because we poked at that word earlier, right? Like a good abstraction would introduce a new vocabulary, right? It would lift things in a different domain, like an operating system. Let's say you read and write a file. The vocabulary for that is streams, right? Or sockets for network, right? Not disk sectors, right? And magnetic encodings, right? So you have a different vocabulary. And I feel this is an important part that people miss. They want to take the base platform, and then they set a few defaults, and they don't allow you to use this availability zone, and they don't allow you to use that service. And they say, oh, look, your cognitive load just went down because now you only choose from 3 availability zones versus 32. And of course, that absolutely doesn't make any developers' lives easier. If anything, it makes it harder, because maybe they wanted to use the service that you just disallowed. So getting that right is a lot more involved than I find people generally expect.
And this is one of the anti-patterns in the adoption of what people are calling platform engineering, that kind of gets under my skin a bit and worries me in terms of its impact, which is an awful lot of organizations that I come across call what they're doing platform engineering, but what it really means is that they've got a team of people that believe that they understand cloud infrastructure and try to hide the use of cloud infrastructure from their other teams without adding any of those extra constraints or abstractions in any meaningful way. As you say, they're just doing the configuration for the teams, and that doesn't seem like a sensible use of these approaches at all.
I see that. I see that quite a lot. And just quickly to this, quite honestly, I think the main reason for that is organizational in most cases, because well, let's talk about the name platform again, right? Platform is the thing that sits sort of underneath other stuff. So people go in the organization and said, well, who is the team that makes things that sit underneath other stuff? And then it turns out, oh, that's the infrastructure and operations team, right? Generally, because they are the ones who deal with servers and networks and storage infrastructure. So isn't this the right place to make platforms? And it's not impossible, but I would say it's a really tall order. I have a chapter in the book that basically says that IT services and platform are antonyms. They're like the complete opposite of each other. And if you use the same team, you shouldn't be too surprised if you find out that your platform looks more like a classic IT services organization. Oh, I
Yes.
need a virtual machine, or I need a container, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then some ticketing system kicks off, and at some point, with a little bit of luck, like a container runtime comes out, but that is not a platform.
Yeah. And everybody like you and me is running for the hills when anybody mentions a ticketing system.
Yeah, exactly. That's the last
yeah.
thing you want.